This is the Crisscross Show. I'm back after a couple months off. The NBA season has officially started. It is December 23rd, so we are in the second day of the NBA. But today, this episode, I want to dedicate it to giving you my predictions for the NBA, so like my records, and also the top 20 players in the NBA. So enjoy. Okay, so first I want to start off on the Eastern Conference from the bottom. So I'm going to say right now the 15th seed, the number one lottery pick probably is going to be the New York Knicks again, just because I think, they have a lot of young players. Who knows what they're doing? I still don't know what the New York Knicks are doing. Number 14, I have the Detroit Pistons. And again, I do like Blake Griffin, but I don't think the Detroit Pistons are doing anything right now. I mean, they signed a lot of big players, not a lot of guards other than Derrick Rose, and everyone knows how I feel about Derrick Rose. Cleveland, I will give them the 13th seed, but I will have them at 22 and 50. I know they're only playing 70 games this year, but I'm having them as a 13th seed in the Eastern Conference at 22 and 50. The Chicago Bulls are at number 12. I put the Bulls at 12 with a 25 and 47 record because I think the Bulls with Billy Donovan are going to take a while to solve, to kind of get their offense flowing. They're a young team. Billy Donovan likes young teams. But again, like the OKC Thunder last year, it took them a while to kind of find themselves. But again, they don't have a player like Chris Paul or Dennis Schroeder to kind of, get the offense going. So I do have Chicago at the 12th seed at 25 and 47. The Charlotte Hornets, I do have them at 27 and 45. I have the Charlotte Hornets that low because, again, LaMelo Ball's only a rookie. Gordon Hayward's going to miss a couple minutes or a couple days. Terry Rozier, I did see him put up 42 points. But again, you don't want a player like Terry Rozier putting up 42 points. It's not a recipe for success. I do have the Orlando Magic at the 10th seed at 30 and 42. Again, I just saw Orlando beat Miami. But again, I think that 8th through 10th seed is going to be very, very interesting. I have them at 30 and 42 because, again, Orlando's kind of streaky. They looked great today, but who knows about tomorrow. Number 9, I have the Indiana Pacers at 35 and 37. They're going to be fighting for the 8th seed. And I know there's going to be a play-in. So, again, 9th and 10th seeds are fine. They're probably going to make the play-in. So, again, that's kind of also what I'm basing it off of. So I have the Atlanta Hawks at the 8th seed, but again, their spot's not secure yet. But I do think that they will make some magic. And again, I was watching, Atlanta, beat Chicago really badly right now. So, I'm kind of aware of that. What else? So I have the 7th seed is Washington. Again, Russell Westbrook, Bradley Beal doing great. They have a bunch of shooters around them. I do think it is going to take a while. They are currently playing against Philadelphia, and the last I checked, they were up by 4. So, Washington, I have them at 39 and 33. The 6th seed, the Toronto Raptors. Again, I think Toronto, they lost Marc Gasol and Serge Ibaka. So, losing those two bigs, it's going to be very, very significant. I do see them still making the playoffs at 42 and 30 just because I think they're a well-coached team. I think they have, the core pieces that they want to move forward with, like Kyle Lowry, Fred VanVleet, and Pascal Siakam. So I do give them the 6th seed at 42 and 30. Miami, I do them at 5th with 43 and 29. Just because they went to the playoffs, went to the finals last year, so it's going to take them a while to kind of get used to the groove. They had a short off season, so I think that will factor into that. The Philadelphia 76ers at 4th, and again, I'm Philadelphia's hit and miss. I'm hoping that, with their new team, with Seth Curry, with Danny Green, with Dwight Howard, that they can figure something out eventually. I do have them in the 4th seed at 45 and 27. Which brings me to my 3rd seed, which I'm going to have Boston at 45 and 27. I'm going to have Boston winning the tiebreaker against Philadelphia. Jayson Tatum, I was watching him right now, looked really, really great on the offensive side. Supposedly he grew, so, who knows how that's going to work out. But I do have Boston as the 3rd seed. My 1 and 2 seed, currently I have Milwaukee at 1, Brooklyn at 2. Again, the media kind of persuades me with Milwaukee. I want to give Brooklyn the 1st seed over Milwaukee, but I'm going to wait a little bit on that. But I will say Brooklyn and Milwaukee are my 1 and 2 seed. with Brooklyn being the second seed at 48 and 24, and obviously the Milwaukee Bucks 53 and 19. So that wraps up my East. I know the 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th seeds will battle in a play-in tournament. So again, those teams aren't necessarily out of the playoffs, but they're not necessarily in the playoffs. So that's my East predictions. So as you guys can see, before I begin my West, I have my Duncan Robinson jersey, so I am showing a little bit of love to Miami today. Anyways, moving on to my Western Conference predictions. I'm going to have OKC at 15th. Just because they're rebuilding. They looked really, really bad in the preseason. So, I kind of, got to give OKC the bottom. And plus, they gave away a lot of players and picks. Or they brought in a lot of picks, got rid of a lot of players. The 14th seed is going to go to Sacramento, but they are going to finish at 27 and 45. Just because I think De'Aaron Fox and all those other guys are pretty good, but, not good enough for the Western Conference. I am going to give Memphis the 13th seed at 30 and 42. Just because, I don't know what they're doing necessarily. They want to make the playoffs, but they don't want to make the playoffs. So I'm going to give them 30 and 42. San Antonio at 32 and 40 with the 12th seed. San Antonio's just going to miss the playoffs this year, or the play-ins this year. Just because, they've got a lot of older guys, and then they got a lot of young guys. A good mix, but an odd mix. Like, you don't really see a defined leader in that team. So I will give San Antonio the 12th seed. The 11th seed, it's going to be close. I'm going to go with New Orleans. I'm going to wait on this one, though. At 35 and 37. They are going to be just fighting for that final play-in seed, which is going to go to Minnesota. That's going to finish at 36 and 36 for me at the 10th seed. So Minnesota will be in that play-in tournament as well. The 9th seed, I'm going to give it to Houston, just because whatever they do with James Harden, I think if they keep James Harden, then they'll definitely be, win a couple more games. But I think if they lose James Harden, go with John Wall, go with DeMarcus Cousins, they're going to finish at 38 and 34, which is the 9th seed, which is good enough for a play-in tournament game. But I do give Houston a little bit of love with a 38 and 34 record. Which brings me to my 8th seed, the Golden State Warriors. I did watch them yesterday. They looked terrible. But again, it's going to take a while. They got a bunch of new players. I'm going to wait on Golden State. I'm going to give them finishing at 40 and 32. I think the first couple games are going to be really, really rough for them because they're trying to figure out who they are, how to move the ball with each other, and how to work the offense. So I am going to give Golden State my 8th seed. My 7th seed is going to go to the Portland Trail Blazers at 40 and 32. Just because I think Damien Lillard is great. Damien Lillard's the only reason I'm giving Portland that much of a shot. They don't really play much defense. But I will give Portland a 7th seed bid there. My number 6 seed is the Phoenix Suns. I do think the Phoenix Suns are going to be really, really good. I think they're going to struggle early, but I think once they find the groove, they're gonna win 5-7 games in a row and finish off at 42 and 30. My 5th seed is going to be the Utah Jazz. Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert signed a hefty extension worth a lot of money. I am going to give them 43 and 29. So I do give Utah the 5th seed. The 4th seed is going to go to the LA Clippers. Again, I don't know what their identity is. I don't know if they're going to rest or if they're going to play this year. I'm going to give them 46 and 26 just because I think, come March, come April, it's going to be, those bad days in the NBA where you just don't want to go out and you don't want to play. So they might lose a couple games there. My 3rd seed is going to go to the Dallas Mavericks at 47 and 25. I do think Dallas is going to take a huge step in the right direction. The first couple games may be a little bit of a struggle, but they are going to catch a groove, win 5, 6, 7 games in a row. The LA Lakers, I'm going to give them the 2nd seed at 51 and 21 just because they are the defending champions. It's going to take, LeBron, Anthony Davis to kind of get a groove. Obviously, as you saw yesterday in the game against the Clippers, they didn't really look that great, but I think eventually they will, catch a groove. The Denver Nuggets will wrap up my number 1 seed in the West at 54 and 18 and have the best record in the league. Just because I think going to the Western Conference Finals, getting a taste of that is going to give Jokic and Jamal Murray a good sense of where they are and where they need to be. So I think Denver will finish with the best record in the league. Just because they're the most complete team all around. And, obviously they've been together for the longest, or one of the longest teams been together. So That wraps up my Western Conference predictions, my Western and Eastern Conference predictions. So there you have it. Up next is my top 20 NBA players. All right, so I'm going to make this quick. So obviously I was watching a couple of NBA games right now, and some honorable mentions that did not make my top 20 are Trae Young and Jaylen Brown. And if I'm missing anyone, I am so sorry about that. I think Bradley Beal also missed my top 20. But those guys are 21, 22, and 23. Anyways, moving on to my top 20. At number 20, Ben Simmons. I think if Ben Simmons does take a leap, he does try some jump shots this year and does make some, he's going to move himself up. But right now I give him at 20th. My 19th place is Chris Paul. Again, I think Chris Paul, everyone overlooked him last year except for me. Chris Paul is my third favorite player in the league. So I do give Chris Paul at number 19. Devin Booker at 18. I think Devin Booker is great. I think he can shoot from anywhere. He's just like Stephen Clay. He's like Klay Thompson with handles. How about that? Kyrie Irving at number 17. I think Kyrie Irving will be great this year because of Kevin Durant. And because of all the things he said this year, he needs to back it up. And typically Kyrie does back up what he says. Number 16, I will give it to Russell Westbrook. I do think he did have a triple-double right as I was watching the Philadelphia game. He was at, 15 assists, 11 rebounds, or like 21 points, I think. So Russell Westbrook is at 16th. Number 15, I'm going to give it to Jamal Murray just because of what he did in the Western Conference semifinals and as well as, in the first round against Utah. I do think he's a little hit and miss sometimes, but I do give Jamal Murray number 15. Number 14, Jimmy Butler obviously led the Miami Heat to the NBA Finals and did lose to the Lakers in 6. So Jimmy Butler isn't a guy who loves to score. He's a guy who wants to score. He's a guy that wants his team to win. Number 13, Donovan Mitchell. I do think he threw up like 2 50-point games in the playoffs last year. So, Donovan Mitchell's a scorer. He defined himself as a great scorer in these past playoffs. Joel Embiid, I do think he did have 27 points when I was watching the Philadelphia game, with 3 minutes to go. Joel Embiid is going to be my number 12 player just because I think Joel Embiid's really great. But I do think that, he's injury prone, which isn't the best. Number 11, James Harden, if he plays. So I'll give James Harden number 11 just because of everything that's gone on. And, the past couple playoffs, the past couple of end of regular seasons, I kind of give him number 11. Number 10, Jayson Tatum. I was watching a Milwaukee-Boston game right now, and Jayson Tatum scored some ridiculous buckets just before I, started doing my video. So I will give Jayson Tatum number 10. Number 9 will go to Damien Lillard just because I do think Damien Lillard can score from anywhere. He can't defend, but he can score from anywhere, which is great. Number 8, Nikola Jokic, just because, he can do it all. He's like Marc Gasol, but with, better handles and can actually dribble. So that's what I define Nikola Jokic as. Number 7, Steph Curry. He is coming back this year. He only played 9 games last year, but I do think Steph Curry is the best shooter in the world, best shooter ever. So I do think, I'll give Steph Curry number 7. Number 6, Luca Dantic. I do think Luca Dantic is going to win MVP this year. A lot of people have been saying it, and even I think it. Third year, finished 29 points per game last year. I mean, he's going to be great. And especially if he leads the Dallas Mavericks to the 3rd seed, like I predict, then he's definitely going to be MVP. Number 5, Kawhi Leonard. I did watch the game last night, and he did have a lot of points in the mid-range, so he is my number 5. Number 4, Anthony Davis, just because I think he has an outside shot, an inside shot, a good post-up. He demands double teams, and if you demand double teams, obviously, you're great. Number 3, Giannis, just because he won MVP the last 2 years. I do think he is very, very limited when it comes to actually shooting the ball from outside of 5 feet. So I will give Giannis number 3. Number 2, Kevin Durant. From what I saw yesterday and from what I saw in the preseason, I will give Kevin Durant the number 2 best player. And obviously number 1 wraps it up. No need to say it. LeBron James, Finals MVP, NBA Finals champion, best player in the world. It will take him a couple games to get used to. So again, a lot of people might tell me that LeBron's not the best. He fell off a cliff. But again, he played 2 games in the preseason, and in both games he played like 20 minutes. So It's going to take them, 5-6 games to really get used to the NBA groove and to really get into it. Expect a lot of big things from him on Christmas Day, maybe 20 to 30 points. So those are my NBA top 20 players. All right, so that just wraps up my NBA season predictions and as well as my top 20 players in the NBA. Again, those are subject to change. I will probably give a mid-season, review come March when the All-Star break happens. But as of right now, I'm sticking with this, and this is what I'm going to go with. And enjoy it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Also be aware of a cooking video that will be coming out. It's going to be a redone video of what I've done before. So be aware of that coming up in the next couple of days.